Daeho Kim stood in the great meeting hall of Harmony's Rest. The space station was huge, bigger than any city on Earth. Ships from 12 different alien races floated outside the windows. Each ship looked different. Some were made of crystal, others looked like living things. The human ship was small and plain next to them. Daeho wore his best uniform. He was Earth's voice here. The other aliens sat around a big circle. They all looked at him with strange eyes. Some had 4 eyes, others had no eyes at all. The Geltai people were made of living crystal. They made soft singing sounds when they talked. The insect-like hive people clicked and buzzed. The water people called Merloth smelled like the ocean. "We are here to talk about the new rule," said Elder Crix. He was one of the Merloth. His skin was blue-green and wet. "No person should explore new planets alone. It is too dangerous." Daeho looked at Yunji Park. She sat behind him with a big folder of papers. Yunji was smart. She studied alien life forms. She knew more about other planets than most people. "We do not agree," Daeho said. His words were translated into 12 different languages at once. "Humans can explore planets alone. We have done it many times." The aliens made noises. Some laughed. Others hissed. Veltar of the Crystal People stood up. His body was clear like glass. Light moved inside him when he talked. "This is foolish," Veltar said. "My people never go anywhere alone. We need our crystal network. Without it, we become confused and weak. All smart races work in groups." "Yes," said Hive Queen Zess. She was as big as a car. Her 6 arms moved while she talked. "My children always stay together. A single bug dies quickly, but 1,000 bugs can survive anything." The other aliens nodded. They all agreed. Going alone was stupid and dangerous. Yunji stood up. She was not tall, but she spoke with a strong voice. "We have proof that humans can do this," she said. "We have been to 17 different worlds. Each one tried to kill us in different ways." She pressed a button. Pictures appeared in the air above them. The first picture showed a world covered in ice. The second showed a planet with storms that rained acid. The third world had plants that tried to eat anything that moved. "On Kepler 442b, the storms can melt metal," Yunji said. "The Korthak Empire sent a team of 100 soldiers there. They all died in 3 days. But human explorer Jinwoo Lim lived there alone for 2 months. He learned how to hide from the storms. He found safe places to sleep. He came back with maps and samples." The red-skinned Korthak general made an angry growling sound. His people were known as the best fighters in the galaxy. They did not like to hear about their failures. "Show them Wolf 1061c, Yunji said. Another picture appeared. This planet looked green and pretty. But looks were not true. The plants here are smart. They hunt animals. They work together to trap and eat them. 3 different alien teams went there. None came back. But human botanist Sora Jung spent 4 months there alone," Daeho added. "She learned how the plants think. She found ways to walk past them safely. She even learned to talk to them using chemical signals." Elder Crix made a wet sound that meant he did not believe them. "You tell stories," he said. "But we need real proof." "Any fool can make up tales," Daeho smiled. He had been waiting for this moment. He looked at Commander Taewon Lee. The military man stood up. He was tall and serious. His uniform had many medals. "Show them the Proxima files," Daeho said. Taewon pressed some buttons on his device. New pictures appeared. These were different. They looked real. They were taken by cameras, not drawn by computers. "This is Proxima Centauri C," Taewon said. "We call it the impossible world. The gravity is 5 times stronger than Earth. The air is poison. The ground changes every day because of earthquakes. The temperature goes from freezing cold to burning hot in just a few hours." The aliens looked at the pictures. They saw a world of red rocks and black sky. Lightning flashed all the time. The ground was broken and twisted. 7 different teams tried to explore this world, Taewon continued. The first team was from the advanced Velkari race. They sent 50 people with the best equipment. They died in 1 week. The second team was from the Mordak. They are known for being tough. They sent 100 soldiers. None came back. The meeting room became very quiet. Even the buzzing insect people stopped making noise. The 3rd, 4th, and 5th teams were mixed groups, Taewon said. Different races working together. They had ships full of machines and supplies. They all failed. The 6th team was from the ancient Zarkoth. They are the oldest and wisest race we know. They failed too. The 7th team was the biggest. 500 people from 8 different races. They lasted longer than the others. 10 days. Then they were all dead. Yunji stepped forward again. Then we sent one human, she said. Dr. Boram Choi. She went alone. No big team. No fancy machines. Just basic tools in her brain. The picture changed. It showed a woman in a simple spacesuit. She looked small and weak compared to the terrible world around her. She lived there for 6 months, Yunji said. Alone, she built shelter from the rocks. She found water in underground caves. She learned when the earthquakes would come by watching the animals. She made tools from metal she found in the ground. The aliens started talking to each other in their own languages. Some sounded angry. Others sounded confused. This cannot be true, said Veltar. One small human cannot do what hundreds of our people could not do. But she did, Deho said. And she brought back something amazing. The picture changed again. It showed strange writing on a cave wall. The symbols were not from any known language. She found proof that another race lived on that world long ago, Yunji explained. They died out millions of years ago, but their cities are still there, buried under the rocks. Boram found 3 different sites. She made maps. She took pictures. She copied their writing. Boram herself stepped out from behind the human group. She was small and quiet. Her skin was dark from being under alien suns. Her hands were tough from working with rocks and metal. How? Asked Elder Crix. His voice was softer now. How did you do what our people could not do? Boram looked at all the aliens around her. She was not afraid even though she was the smallest person in the room. I listened to the planet, she said. Your people tried to fight it. They brought big machines to make the air breathable. They built strong shelters to stop the earthquakes. They tried to change the world to fit them. She paused and looked around the room again. But I changed myself to fit the world. When the ground shook, I learned the rhythm. I could tell when big quakes were coming. When it got hot, I went underground. When it got cold, I found rocks that held heat from the day. I did not fight the planet. I became part of it. The aliens were all quiet now. They were thinking about her words. This is why humans can walk alone, Deho said. We do not need others to tell us what to do. We can think for ourselves. We can change when we need to change. We can survive because we adapt. Supreme Counselor Theska spoke for the first time. She was very old and very wise. Her people had been traveling between stars before most other races learned to make fire. If this is true, she said slowly, then we must test it. Words are easy. Proof is hard, Deho nodded. He had expected this. What kind of test? Theska smiled. It was not a nice smile. We know of a world that has killed many explorers. If humans are truly special, they should be able to survive there. The other aliens nodded. They liked this idea. What world? Asked Tae-1. Tartarus Prime, said Elder Crix. His wet skin turned a darker color. The death world. No one who goes there comes back. Deho felt his heart beat faster. He had heard of Tartarus Prime. Every space traveler had heard the stories. It was the most dangerous planet anyone knew about. But he looked at his team. He saw Yunji's confident face. He saw Tae-1's steady eyes. He saw Boram's quiet strength. We accept, he said. The news about Tartarus Prime spread fast through the space station. Every alien wanted to know about the human test. They gathered in small groups and talked in whispers. Some made bets on how quickly the human would die. Deho sat in the human meeting room with his team. The room was small compared to the alien halls, but it felt safe and warm. Pictures of Earth hung on the walls. A small plant from home grew in a pot by the window. Tell us about Tartarus Prime, he said to Yunji. Yunji opened her computer. Pictures of the death world filled the screen. It looked like a nightmare. The sky was always dark red. The ground was broken and twisted. Strange creatures moved between the rocks. The gravity is 3 times stronger than Earth, she said. A man who weighs 70 kilos on Earth will weigh 210 kilos there. Just walking will be hard work. She clicked to the next picture. It showed the air composition. The air is poison. It has methane and sulfur compounds. One breath without a mask will kill you. But the electromagnetic field around the planet breaks most electronic devices. Advanced air filters stop working after a few hours. Tae-1 leaned forward. He was already thinking like a soldier. What about shelter? The ground shakes every day, Yunji continued. Small earthquakes happen every few hours. Big ones happen every day or two. They can change the shape of the land. A safe place can become a death trap in minutes. Boram asked the important question. What killed the other teams? Yunji's face became serious. Many things. Let me tell you about each team that tried. She showed them a picture of crystal beings. They looked like living diamonds. The Geltai sent 20 of their best people. They brought advanced environmental suits that could filter any air. They built shelters that could survive earthquakes. They had enough supplies for a month. What happened? Asked Deho. They died in 3 days. The electromagnetic field cut them off from their crystal network. Without that connection, they became confused. They could not think clearly. They made bad choices. They walked into a group of native predators. The next picture showed the red-skinned Korthak warriors. The Korthak Empire sent 50 soldiers. These were their best fighters. They had military-grade equipment, power armor, energy weapons, force field generators, and, Taiwan asked, they lasted 5 days. The electromagnetic field drained their equipment. When their weapons stopped working, they tried to fight the native animals with their hands. But in 3 times gravity, they were too slow, too tired. The animals hunted them down one by one. Yunji showed them more pictures. Each told the same story. Advanced technology failed. Large groups became confused and panicked. People died in horrible ways. The worst was the combined team, she said. 500 people from 8 different races. They brought 3 ships full of supplies. They had scientists, soldiers, engineers, doctors, everything they needed. What killed them? They could not agree on what to do. Each race had different ideas. The Geltai wanted to build crystal shelters. The Korthak wanted to fight everything. The Murloth needed water pools to survive. They spent so much time arguing that they forgot to watch for danger. A volcanic eruption caught them all together. The room was quiet for a long time. Finally, Commander Taiwan spoke. "I will go," he said. Everyone looked at him. Taiwan was a good soldier, but he was not an explorer like Boram. "No," said a voice from the door. They all turned to see Jae-sung Han walking into the room. Behind him was his wife. Mi-young Jae-sung was different from the other humans. He was not a soldier or a scientist. He was a survival expert. Before he came to space, he had lived alone in Earth's worst places. Deserts, frozen mountains, dense jungles. He knew how to stay alive when everything was trying to kill him. "I should go," Jae-sung said. "This is what I do." Mi-young did not look happy, but she nodded. "He is right. If anyone can survive that place, it is him." Daeho studied Jae-sung's face. The man was calm, not excited or scared, just calm. "Are you sure?" Daeho asked. "Yes, but I want to hear about the other failures first. I need to understand what not to do." Yunji turned back to her computer. The Valkyrie were next. They are known for being smart. They sent a team of 20 scientists with the most advanced equipment in the galaxy. How did they die? They tried to terraform a small area, make it safe and comfortable. They brought machines to clean the air and stabilize the ground. But the planet fought back. The native life forms attacked their machines. Without their safe zone, they had no backup plan. She showed them another picture. These aliens looked like big cats with 6 legs. The Mordak sent hunters. They thought they could live off the land like primitive people. But they did not understand that Tartarus Prime is not like other worlds. The plants are poisonous. The animals are too dangerous. The water will kill you if you drink it wrong. Jae-sung asked many questions. What time of year did each team land? What equipment did they bring? Where did they build their camps? How did they try to get food and water? Mi-young took notes while he talked. She was an engineer. Her job was to design equipment that would work on Tartarus Prime. "Most electronics will fail," she said, "but we can make simple tools that do not need power. A good knife, fire-starting materials, water purification tablets that work with chemistry, not electronics." "I do not want much equipment," Jae-sung said. "Too much stuff makes you think you are safe. Makes you lazy. I want just enough to survive the first few days. After that, I will use what the planet gives me." Elder Crix came to visit them later that day. The blue-green alien looked worried. "I must tell you something," he said to Daeho. "Some of the council members do not want this test to be fair." "What do you mean?" "They want humans to fail. If you succeed, it will change everything. Many aliens will feel weak and stupid. Some are talking about making the test harder than it should be." Daeho felt angry, but he kept his voice calm. "What are they planning?" "They want to drop your man in the worst part of the planet." During the storm season, with almost no supplies, Mi-young looked up from her work. "That is not testing ability. That is just murder." "Yes," said Crix. "But they call it a fair test. They say if humans are really special, they should survive anything. Jae-sung smiled. It was not a worried smile. Let them do their worst. I have survived in places they cannot imagine. That night, Daeho could not sleep. He walked through the human section of the space station. In one room, he found Dr. So-jin Lee working late. She was Boram's sister, but very different. While Boram explored planets, So-jin studied data. I have been looking at all the failed missions, she said when she saw him. I think I know why they all died. Tell me. They all made the same mistake. They tried to bring their home with them. The Geltai needed their crystal network. The Korthak needed their weapons and armor. The Murloth needed their water pools. She showed him charts and graphs on her computer. Look at this. Every team spent most of their time trying to recreate their normal environment. They used up energy and supplies building things that made them feel comfortable. But comfortable is not the same as safe. What should Jae-sung do different? He should become part of the planet from the first day. Do not try to change Tartarus Prime. Let it change him. The next morning, they met with the Alien Council. Supreme Counselor Theska read the test conditions. The human will be taken to the Hellfire Canyon region of Tartarus Prime. This is the most active volcanic area. He will be given basic survival supplies for 3 days only. No communication with his ship. No rescue for 30 days. The other humans looked shocked. 30 days alone on the death world with 3 days of food. If he is still alive after 30 days, we will consider the test passed, Theska continued. And if he dies? Asked Daeho. Then humans will be banned from solo exploration forever. You will be classified as a species that needs constant supervision. Jae-sung stepped forward. I accept these conditions. Mi-young gave him the survival kit she had built. It was very small. A knife with a strong blade. Fire-starting materials that worked in any atmosphere. Water purification tablets. 3 days of emergency food bars. A small tool for digging, that is all? Asked Veltar. He sounded surprised. His people would bring a ship full of equipment. That is all I need, said Jae-sung. Hive Queen Zess made clicking sounds of disbelief. My people would never send one individual anywhere with so little support. Your people are not human, Jae-sung replied. The alien ship took Jae-sung to Tartarus Prime. From space, the planet looked like a ball of fire. Red and orange clouds swirled around it. Lightning flashed in the atmosphere every few seconds. As they got closer, they could see the surface. Broken ground stretched in all directions. Volcanoes smoked on the horizon. Strange rock formations jutted up like teeth. Hellfire Canyon is there, said the alien pilot. He pointed to a dark crack in the ground. Many earthquakes happen there every day. The air is extra poisoned because of volcanic gases. Jae-sung looked out the window at his destination. It looked like the worst place in the universe. Perfect, he said. The alien pilot thought he was joking, but Jae-sung was serious. The worst places were sometimes the safest. Other creatures avoided them too. They landed just long enough for Jae-sung to jump out. The ship flew away immediately. The pilot did not want to stay on the surface any longer than necessary. Jae-sung's first steps on Tartarus Prime were careful. The gravity made him feel like he was carrying 2 other people on his back. Every step took effort, but he did not fight it. He changed how he walked. Smaller steps, more rest. Let the planet teach him its rhythm. The ground was sharp black rock. It cut through weak boots easily, but Jae-sung had expected this. His boots were thick and strong. Mi-young had designed them specially for this world. Above him, he could see the alien ships watching from space. 12 different races all waiting to see him fail. Some had made bets on how he would die. Would it be the poison air? The earthquakes? The native predators? Jae-sung did not think about dying. He thought about living. The first thing he needed was shelter. Not a big, permanent building like the other teams had tried to make. Something simple that he could move quickly when the ground shook. He found a place where 2 large rocks leaned against each other. It made a small cave just big enough for one person. He tested the rocks by pushing on them. They were solid, old. They had probably been here for thousands of years, but he did not trust them completely. He looked around until he found 3 smaller rocks that he could move. If the big rocks fell, these would stop them from crushing him. It was not perfect protection, but it was something. Captain Donghyun Park watched from the human command ship. He wrote everything down in his mission log. Hour 1. Subject has found temporary shelter. Did not waste time building elaborate structure like previous teams. Showing adaptive behavior. The first earthquake came 2 hours after landing. The ground shook for 30 seconds. Small rocks fell from the canyon walls. Jae-sung felt the vibration through his whole body. When it stopped, he came out of his shelter and looked around. The landscape had changed a little. A new crack had opened in the ground 20 meters away. If he had been standing there, he would have fallen into it. Instead of being scared, he was curious. He walked to the crack and looked down. It was deep and narrow. Hot air came up from inside, but the air smelled different from the surface air. It was cleaner. Less poison underground air. That might be important later. The alien observers were confused by his behavior. When their teams faced the first earthquake, they had panicked. They had run around trying to find safer places. Some had called for immediate rescue, but this human just studied the changes and learned from them. As the day got hotter, Jae-sung noticed something else. The rocks around him absorbed heat during the day. By afternoon, they were too hot to touch, but that meant they would still be warm at night when the temperature dropped. He moved his shelter to a different spot, a place where the rocks would give him warmth during the cold hours, but where he could find shade during the hot hours. Dr. Sojin Lee watched the data from her station. "He is not just surviving," she told Daeho. "He is learning the planet's patterns. Every decision makes him safer." On the second day, Jae-sung faced his first big test. His water was running low. The purification tablets were working, but he needed to find a source of water to purify. The other teams had brought machines that could pull moisture from the air or filter groundwater, but Jae-sung had to find water the old way. By understanding the land, he watched where the native plants grew. Plants needed water, even poison plants. He followed their roots by digging small holes. After several hours, he found what he was looking for, an underground stream. The water was dark and smelled bad. It would kill most aliens instantly, but his purification tablets were designed for the worst water on any planet. He filled his water container and added the chemical tablets. While he waited for the water to become safe, he studied the plants around the stream. Some had thick leaves that stored water. Others had roots that went deep underground. All of them had evolved to live in this terrible place. If they could do it, so could he. The alien observers were getting excited now. No previous team had made it through 2 full days without major problems. Some aliens were starting to worry. What if this human actually succeeded? On the third day, Jae-sung's food ran out. This was the real test. All the other teams had died when their supplies ended. They did not know how to find food on Tartarus Prime. Jae-sung spent the morning watching the native animals. Most of them were dangerous. Big lizard-like creatures with sharp teeth and claws. Flying things that looked like metal birds with razor wings. Insects the size of house cats that moved in deadly swarms. But dangerous animals meant there was a food chain. Something was feeding them. Something they could eat meant something he might be able to eat too. He found what he was looking for by accident. A small earthquake opened a new crack in the canyon wall. Inside the crack, he saw roots from deep underground plants. These roots were pale and thick. They had no poison because they grew far below the surface. He dug carefully and pulled out several roots. They smelled clean, not like the surface plants that reeked of chemicals. He tested a tiny piece first, then a bigger piece. His stomach did not get sick. Food. Not good food, but food that would keep him alive. The alien ships were very quiet now. The betting had stopped. Even the most confident aliens were starting to believe that maybe, just maybe, this human might survive. By the end of the first week, Jae-sung had established a routine. He moved his shelter every day to stay ahead of the earthquake damage. He had found 3 different water sources. He knew which plants had edible roots and which would kill him. More importantly, he was mapping the safe routes through the canyon. The other teams had tried to go straight to their destinations. They did not understand that the landscape was always changing. What was safe in the morning might be deadly by afternoon. But Jae-sung learned to read the signs. The way certain rocks moved before big earthquakes, the smell of the air that warned of volcanic activity, the behavior of the native animals when they sensed danger. Research Director Hanyul Kim explained to the council what they were seeing. This is human adaptability in action. He is not trying to conquer the planet. He is learning to become part of its ecosystem. Elder Crix asked the question they were all thinking, but can he maintain his sanity? Being alone for so long drives most species mad. On day 10, they got their answer. A massive volcanic eruption happened just 5 kilometers from Jae-sung's location, the sky filled with ash and burning rock. Toxic gases rolled across the canyon like a deadly fog. The alien observers thought this was the end. No one could survive that level of destruction. But Jae-sung had been watching the volcanoes for days. He had noticed that the native animals always moved to certain areas before eruptions. They knew something he did not know yet. When he saw the animals moving, he followed them. They led him to a system of caves that went deep underground. The caves were hot, but the air was cleaner than the surface. The volcanic gases could not reach down there. He stayed in the caves for 3 days while the eruption continued above. He was not bored or scared. He used the time to explore the cave system and learn more about the underground world. And that was when he made his great discovery. Deep in the caves, he found something that made his heart beat faster. Carved symbols on the cave walls. Not natural rock formations. Artificial markings made by intelligent beings. Someone had lived here before. A long time ago, another race had survived on Tartarus Prime, and they had left messages. Jae-sung could not read the symbols, but he could understand some of them by their context. Pictures showing safe routes through the canyon. Maps of water sources. Warnings about dangerous areas. These ancient people had done exactly what he was doing. They had adapted to the planet instead of trying to change it. Using primitive tools, he made copies of the symbols. He drew them on flat rocks using charcoal from the volcanic ash. Even if he died, these discoveries would survive, but he was not planning to die. When the eruption ended and it was safe to return to the surface, Jae-sung had a new confidence. He was no longer just surviving. He was thriving. The alien observers were stunned. Captain Dong-hyun Park received messages from 12 different species asking the same question. How is he not dead yet? By day 15, Jae-sung was exploring areas that previous teams had never reached. He had learned to predict the earthquakes well enough to travel safely. He knew which caves had clean air and which had poison gas. He could find food and water in places that looked completely lifeless. Most importantly, he was happy. Not just alive, but actually enjoying himself. The challenge of survival on the worst planet in known space was exactly the kind of puzzle that human minds were designed to solve. The aliens watching from orbit could not understand this. When their people were alone, they became depressed and confused. They made bad decisions. They gave up hope. But this human seemed to get stronger every day he was alone. He moved with more confidence. He explored with more curiosity. He solved problems with more creativity. Communication officer Yoon Seo-jung tried to explain it to the confused alien observers. Humans are social animals, but we are also individuals. We can work in groups, but we can also work alone. In fact, sometimes we work better alone, because we do not have to worry about what others think. We can focus completely on survival. On day 20, disaster struck in a new way. A major seismic event damaged the observation satellites. The alien ships lost contact with their monitoring equipment. Without the alien satellites watching him, Jae-sung felt a strange kind of freedom. For the first time since landing on Tartarus Prime, he was truly alone. No voices from space telling him to be careful. No observers judging his every decision. He liked it. That morning, he decided to explore the deep canyon areas that he had been avoiding. They looked too dangerous when he knew people were watching. But now, with only himself to worry about, he could take the kinds of risks that led to real discoveries. The path down into the deeper canyon was treacherous. Loose rocks that could start landslides, narrow ledges over deep drops. Places where one wrong step meant death. But Jae-sung had spent 3 weeks learning how this planet worked. He could feel the vibrations in the rock that warned of instability. He could smell the chemical changes in the air that meant volcanic activity. He had become part of Tartarus Prime in a way that no other explorer ever had. High above him, communications officer Yoon Seo-jung monitored the passive sensors from the human command ship. She could not see details, but she could track his general location and life signs. His heart rate is steady, she reported to Daeho. No signs of panic or stress. If anything, he seems more relaxed than before. Daeho found this hard to believe. He is completely cut off from all help. How can he be more relaxed? Because he does not have to worry about us anymore, said Dr. Young Miko. Every human has experienced this. When you are trying to impress others or follow their expectations, part of your mind is always thinking about what they want. But when you are alone, you can focus completely on what needs to be done. The alien observers were getting frustrated. Their advanced monitoring equipment was broken. They could only get basic data from the human ship's passive sensors. They did not know what Jae-sung was doing, and it made them nervous. "He could be dying down there," said Veltar. "We would not know until it was too late. Or he could be making discoveries that change everything," replied Ambassador Daeho. Deep in the canyon, Jae-sung was indeed making discoveries. The ancient cave paintings had shown him something important. There were deeper cave systems that the previous alien expeditions had never found. Places where the original inhabitants of Tartarus Prime had built something like cities. Following the crude maps carved into the rock, he found an entrance that had been hidden by a recent landslide. It took him most of the day to clear away enough rocks to squeeze through. Inside he found wonders. The ancient people who had lived here were gone, but their buildings remained. Not buildings like humans or aliens would make. These were carved directly from the living rock. Chambers and tunnels that worked with the planet's natural systems instead of fighting against them. The air circulation used the volcanic vents to move fresh air through the spaces. The water systems collected and filtered groundwater using natural minerals. The earthquake-resistant design bent and flexed with the seismic activity instead of trying to resist it. Most amazing of all, there were gardens. Underground spaces where the ancient people had grown food using volcanic heat and filtered water. Some of the plants were still alive after millions of years. They had adapted to grow without sunlight, feeding on minerals from the rock. Jae-sung spent hours exploring and documenting everything. He drew maps on the cave walls using charcoal. He made detailed sketches of the plant systems. He figured out how the ancient water filters worked and improved his own water purification methods. For the first time since landing, he had found a place where he could live comfortably for months or even years. The ancient people had solved all the problems of surviving on Tartarus Prime. They had not fought the planet. They had become part of it, but the most important discovery was still to come. In the deepest chamber, he found what looked like a library, not books like humans would make. Stone tablets covered with the same symbols he had seen in the other caves, but these were organized like a record-keeping system. He could not read the language, but he could understand the structure. These tablets told the story of how the ancient people had learned to live on Tartarus Prime. It was a record of their adaptation process, their failures and successes, their gradual transformation from planet fighters to planet partners. And in the final set of tablets, he found star maps. The ancient people had not just survived on Tartarus Prime, they had thrived here. And they had used it as a base to explore other worlds. Worlds that were even more dangerous and impossible than this one. They had been the galaxy's first true explorers. People who could go anywhere and survive anything, because they learned to become part of every world they visited, just like humans were doing now. Jae-sung realized that this was not just an archaeological discovery. It was proof that what humans were doing was not unique. Another species had developed the same abilities, the same willingness to adapt rather than conquer. But where were they now? What had happened to these remarkable people? He found the answer in the last set of tablets. Star charts showing their expansion across the galaxy, records of successful colonies on dozens of worlds, and then suddenly nothing. No records of destruction or disaster. No evidence of war or disease. They had simply stopped making records and disappeared from history. But Jae-sung thought he knew what had happened. They had become so good at adapting to different worlds that they had stopped being one species. On each planet, they had changed to fit the local conditions. After many generations, they had become as different from each other as humans were from aliens. They had not died out. They had evolved into the many different species that now filled the galaxy. The aliens watching from orbit did not know about these discoveries. All they knew was that Jae-sung had been out of contact for 6 days and was still alive, still exploring, still functioning at peak efficiency. Elder Cricks expressed what they were all thinking. This is not possible. No individual can maintain mental stability alone for so long. He should be hallucinating, making dangerous mistakes, calling for rescue. But the sensor data showed none of these things. If anything, Jae-sung appeared to be in better physical and mental condition than when he had landed. Dr. Young-Mi Ko tried to explain the human psychology to the confused aliens. Solitude is different from loneliness. Loneliness is when you want to be with others but cannot. Solitude is when you choose to be alone. Many humans actually need solitude to think clearly and make good decisions. But for weeks? Asked Hive Queen Zess. My people begin to die within hours of separation from the collective. Your people evolved differently than ours. You developed collective intelligence. We developed individual intelligence. Both approaches work, but they work differently. Supreme Counselor Theska had been silent during these discussions, but now she spoke. There is something we have not told you about Tartarus Prime. The other aliens turned to look at her. Even they did not know what she was about to reveal. My people have been watching the galaxy for millions of years. We have records that go back to the beginning of interstellar civilization. Tartarus Prime is not just a dangerous world. It is the homeworld of the precursors. A shock went through the assembled aliens. The precursors were legend, the mythical first species to achieve interstellar travel. They had supposedly explored the entire galaxy before any current species had evolved intelligence. The precursors were real? Asked Deho. Very real. And they were like your humans. Individuals who could survive alone on any world. They mapped the galaxy. They seeded life on barren planets. They built the foundation that our current civilization rests on. What happened to them? They evolved beyond the need for a single form. They became many species perfectly adapted to different worlds. We are all their children in a way, but we lost their abilities when we specialized for specific environments. The implications of this revelation were staggering. If humans had the same abilities as the legendary precursors, then they were not just unusual. They were the return of something the galaxy had lost. Down on Tartarus Prime, Jae-sung was coming to similar conclusions as he studied the ancient tablets. The star maps showed exploration routes that covered the entire galaxy, worlds that current species considered impossible to reach, but the precursors had been there, and they had left markers, guideposts for anyone who might follow their path. He realized that his mission was no longer just about proving that humans could survive alone. It was about reclaiming humanity's birthright as the galaxy's explorers. On day 25, the monitoring satellites finally came back online. The alien observers eagerly looked for the human explorer, expecting to find him dead or dying after so many days without contact. Instead, they found him healthy and active in a location that no previous expedition had ever reached. He was not just surviving in the deepest part of Tartarus Prime's most dangerous region. He was thriving there, and he had built something. Using ancient techniques and local materials, he had constructed a shelter that was better than anything the high-tech alien expeditions had managed. It was earthquake-proof, climate-controlled, and completely sustainable. How is this possible? Asked Veltar. Captain Dong Hyun Park had the answer. He found the precursor ruins. He learned from them. He became what they were. The alien observers fell silent. The alien ships moved quickly to extract Jae-sung from Tartarus Prime, but when they arrived at his location, they found something they had never expected. He did not want to leave. I am not finished here, Jae-sung said over the radio. There is too much to learn, too much to discover. Give me more time. The rescue pilot, a nervous Murloth named Kesra, could not understand this. The test is complete. You have survived 30 days. That is more than anyone thought possible. Come aboard the ship? No, I am just beginning to understand this place. The ancient people left so much knowledge here. I need more time to study it. In the end, they had to negotiate. Jae-sung would return to Harmony's Rest for the official council meeting. But he wanted permission to return to Tartarus Prime with a proper research team. Human researchers who could help him unlock all the secrets of the precursor ruins. When Jae-sung walked into the great meeting hall of the space station, he looked different. His skin was darker from the volcanic ash. His hands were tough from working with stone and metal. His eyes held a confidence that had not been there before, but most importantly, he was carrying something. A bag full of stone tablets covered with ancient symbols. The alien delegate stared at him in amazement. He was supposed to be broken by his ordeal, traumatized by 30 days alone on the death world. Instead, he looked healthier and happier than when he had left. Supreme Counselor Theska spoke first. You have survived the test, but surviving is not the same as succeeding. What did you accomplish on Tartarus Prime besides staying alive? Jae-sung smiled. He set his bag on the council table and began pulling out stone tablets. I found the precursors, he said. The hall erupted in noise, aliens talking in 12 different languages at once. Some were excited. Others were skeptical. Many were afraid. Theska called for quiet. Explain what you mean. The people who lived on Tartarus Prime millions of years ago, they were not destroyed by the planet. They learned to live with it. They built cities underground. They grew food using volcanic heat. They mapped the safe routes through the most dangerous terrain. He held up one of the stone tablets. This is their story, written in stone so it would last forever. They started as explorers who crashed on Tartarus Prime, just like the modern teams that failed there. But they did not try to change the planet. They changed themselves. Dr. Sojin Lee had been working on the tablet translations during Jae-sung's return journey. She stood up to present her findings. The symbols are mathematical and pictographic, she said. We can understand much of what they mean. These tablets describe a process of adaptation that took many generations. The precursors learned to eat the native plants, to breathe the volcanic atmosphere, to predict and survive the earthquakes. But more importantly, Jae-sung continued, they learned to think like the planet, to become part of its ecosystem instead of fighting against it. And once they mastered Tartarus Prime, they used those skills to explore other impossible worlds. He pulled out the star charts. These maps show colonies on worlds that we consider unreachable. Black hole systems, gas giant atmospheres, the cores of neutron stars. They went everywhere. Elder Crix leaned forward to study the tablets. If this is true, then what happened to them? Where are the precursors now? They became you, Jae-sung said simply. All of you. They adapted so completely to different worlds that they evolved into different species. The Geltai probably evolved from precursors who colonized crystal worlds. The Murloth from precursors who adapted to ocean worlds. Every species in this council has precursor DNA. The hall was silent now. This was not just an archaeological discovery. This was a complete rewriting of galactic history. Ambassador Daeho stepped forward. This proves our point. Humans have the same abilities as the precursors. We can adapt to any world. We can explore places that others cannot reach. But Veltar was not convinced. Even if this is true, it changes nothing. One human surviving on one world does not prove anything about your entire species. Then test more of us, said a voice from the human delegation. Everyone turned to see Boram Choi standing up. She had been quiet during the entire meeting, but now she spoke with authority. Test me on a different impossible world, she said. Test 10 humans on 10 different worlds. Test 100 humans if you need to. We will prove that Jae-sung is not unique. Hive Queen Zess made agitated clicking sounds. This is madness. No species should risk so many individuals on death worlds. It is not risk if we succeed, Boram replied. And we will succeed. Because this is what humans do. We explore, we adapt, we survive. Supreme Counselor Theska raised her hand for silence. There will be no more tests. What we have seen is sufficient. She stood up and her ancient voice filled the hall. For millions of years, the galaxy has been limited by our specializations. Each species can only survive in environments similar to their homeworld. We need artificial life support to explore new places. We need large teams and advanced technology to feel safe. But humans are different. They carry the precursor gift of adaptation. They can go anywhere and learn to survive. They can walk alone on alien worlds because they are never truly alone. They carry the knowledge and instincts of their entire species. She looked directly at Daeho. The Galactic Council hereby grants humans exclusive rights to solo exploration of uncharted and dangerous worlds. No other species may attempt such missions alone, but humans may do so with our full support. The other aliens began to object, but Theska continued. This is not about superior and inferior species. This is about using each species for what they do best. The Geltai excel at crystalline technology. The Murloth excel at aquatic sciences. The Korthak excel at military tactics. And humans excel at walking into the unknown and returning with knowledge that benefits everyone. Elder Crix asked the practical question. But why must they go alone? Why not send human teams? Dr. Youngmi Ko answered this time. Because human teams behave differently than human individuals. In groups, we become cautious. We compromise. We spend time discussing and debating. But alone, we become focused. We make quick decisions based on instinct and experience. A team of humans would try to keep each other safe, added Jae-sung. But a single human will take the risks necessary to make real discoveries. The meeting continued for hours. They discussed the practical details of the new exploration program, how humans would be selected and trained, what equipment they would carry, how often they would report back. But the most important decision had already been made. Humans would be the galaxy scouts, the ones who ventured into impossible places and mapped the way for others to follow. 6 months later, Scout Captain Min-Ho Kang stood on the surface of a world at the galaxy's edge. The world had no name yet. The long-range surveys had detected it, but no expedition had ever reached it successfully. The world was stranger than anything in the known galaxy. The gravity changed direction every few hours. The ground was made of a crystalline substance that could phase between solid and liquid without warning. The atmosphere was breathable, but it contained psychoactive compounds that caused hallucinations in most alien species. Min-Ho was completely alone. His ship had dropped him off and departed immediately. The world's strange magnetic field would damage any spacecraft that stayed too long. He would be here for 3 months. Alone with his thoughts, his training, and his human ability to adapt to anything. As he took his first steps across the phase-shifting crystal ground, he smiled. The alien council members who had voted for this program still did not fully understand what they had unleashed. They thought they were giving humans permission to explore dangerous worlds alone, but what they had really done was give humans permission to become the heirs of the precursors, to reclaim humanity's destiny as the species that could go anywhere and survive anything. Min-Ho checked his equipment and looked up at the alien sky. Somewhere out there were worlds that no living being had ever seen. Planets with impossible physics, moons where the laws of chemistry worked differently, star systems where time itself flowed backward, and now humans had official permission to walk on all of them. Alone. He started walking toward the distant mountains, where his sensors had detected energy readings that defied known science. Behind him, his footprints in the crystal sand were already fading as the ground shifted from solid to liquid and back again. But it did not matter. He would learn to read this world's patterns. He would adapt to its strange rhythms. He would discover its secrets and return with knowledge that would benefit every species in the galaxy. Because that was what humans did. They walked alone on alien worlds so that others did not have to, and in doing so, they carried the hopes and dreams of their entire species into the unknown, just as the precursors had done millions of years before. The circle was complete. The galaxy's first explorers had returned in human form to finish the work that had been started so long ago, to map every world, to understand every mystery, to ensure that no corner of the universe remained unknown. One human, one world, one impossible journey at a time.